This podcast is brought to you by the Islamic Center and NYU. For more information, visit our website at www.icnyu.org.
So we are continuing, inshallah, with our, we've been doing a prophetic series of Qisas al-Anbiya and narrating through the different prophets. And so now that we are back settled and welcome week is over and we're back in the routine, inshallah, we will continue with that series, going over the stories of the Anbiya. So the prophet that we are discussing now is Prophet Yaqub, alayhi salam. And so Prophet Yaqub is the son of Ishaq, alayhi salam. The Ishaq, of course, is the son of Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam. And the mother of Yaqub, so he's the son of Ishaq, whose mother and his Ishaq married Rebecca. And Rebecca and Ishaq had Yaqub, but they are the grandchildren of Ibrahim alayhi salam and Sarah, right? So Ibrahim and Sarah have Ishaq who marries Rebecca, and then they have Yaqub alayhi salam. So got it so far? So this is important because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned several times, Yaqub alayhi salam is mentioned over 16 times in the Quran, but 16 times directly. And then there are other times that he's mentioned indirectly. And part of this, subhanAllah, is because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has expressed a deep love for Yaqub. That there's a deep love that is expressed for him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-An'am, as well as in Surah Al-Baqarah, multiple times about his level of knowledge. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with knowledge, that he blessed him with inspiration, that he blessed him with power, and that he blessed him with influence, meaning that his dawah would be very strong, that he would call many, many people to the deen of Allah, to the way and the path of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So Prophet Yaqub, Allah make this easy. So Prophet Yaqub, alayhi salam, was someone he actually he was young when his grandfather was alive, but he actually was able to see Ibrahim alayhi salam actually lived to see his grandchildren. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that when he says, I shall bless you with a son, Ishaq and Yaqub, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal mentions his son and his grandson, which is, mashallah, tabarak rahman, Allah Azza wa Jal showing and expressing his favor on Yaqub alayhi salam for saying, not only am I going to bless your children, I'm going to also bless your grandchildren. He's basically saying, I'm going to bless your lineage, right? For a long time to come, you are those that are blessed because of your hard work and sacrifice. But even specifically, he mentions these because he's talking about in terms of who are the Anbiya, right? He's also listing those who he's going to bless. It's not just that I'm going to bless you, meaning you're going to have sons, and this is like, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preferring a gender. No, this is about that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to bless this lineage with the risala, right? With the risala, meaning that they're going to have the mission to be able to carry to carry the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is one aspect. Yaqub alayhi salam, from the time he's young, as I mentioned, he's blessed to be able to have a father who's a prophet, right? And a mother. And his grandfather, who is also a prophet. And they're both parting wisdom. Now, what is known is that Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam, before his passing, he sits down his sons and his grandchildren and say, be my witness, right? That I have taught you about Tawheed. He gives a couple of other points, like basically, I've taught you the way of Allah and how to follow him and die not except in the state of Islam, right? And I've taught you basically the principles for how to carry this message. But are you a witness for that? They agree. We are a witness for that you have carried out that mission, that you have given us, that you have passed that on to us before he passes away. So, subhanAllah, this is something that Yaqub actually is seen repeating often to his sons later on. Now, when Yaqub alayhi salam gets of age to get married, he falls in love with a woman by the name of Rachel. But at that particular time in history, it was not acceptable. Even in some cultures, you still have this, where she was the younger sister and her older sister had not yet gotten married. So therefore, the father did not want to give her in marriage to Yaqub alayhi salam because she was the youngest and the other hadn't married. So they had an agreement. If you work for me for a period of time, for 8 years, basically be my servant for 8 years, then inshallah, I basically either she's gotten married by that time, the older sister has gotten married by that time, and you will marry this one, or I will marry both my daughters to you, which at that time was permissible. It was permissible in their sharia. 8 years passed. He did his work. Can you imagine being that patient for 8 years? Right? Like there's no question in this woman's mind whether or not you love me. Right? Because you worked for 8 years to make sure, subhanAllah, that this is like in 8 years, right? Especially you're working close to the father, so you're able to see the daughter grow, develop. You know her personality well. You're able to say, you know what? After the third year, I'm not quite so sure. I changed my mind. But subhanAllah, he's consistent, he's true to his word. And in 8 years, actually, the older sister is not married. And so both become the wives of Yaqub alayhi salam. Now, the challenges, of course, is that who does he love more? He loves Rachel more. He loves the younger wife more. But he has only 2 sons from her, and he has more sons from the other wife. But it's known because of his love, right? For this other wife, he has a more of attachment to these children. Problem, right? Which is what we see manifested later between the brothers of Yaqub, a brother of Yusuf alayhi salam, and Yusuf and Binyamin, right? These 2 younger brothers, it's known that they are favorites of his. He loves them. The brothers talk about, his love. He favors them more than us, and they feel a deep sense of they feel robbed of their father's love in a sense. And it's not that he didn't love them, because what is known is that he spent time with them and that he worked really hard to actually give them the message. In addition to what we know about Yaqub alayhi salam is that he really worked to train his children and to be an example of what power and humility looks like. So in the case, subhanAllah, that it's known that even though he was a very wealthy and very influential man, that every day said that he would actually slaughter either a sheep or a ram, and he would call out to those who were hungry and say, is there anyone that is hungry? Come to the door of Yaqub. So the people would come, poor people would come and line up actually outside his door, and he would serve them food. Right, that he would serve them food every day. There is a narration that there was one particular man named Dimyan, who, subhanAllah, was a known servant of Allah Azza wa Jal. And one particular day, he was fasting. It was a Thursday, he was fasting. And he came late. He came late and the food was finished. But he stood outside calling to Yaqub alayhi salam, but they said it's very late. I can't imagine, the food is finished. And they didn't answer. The household of Yaqub did not answer. This man went to sleep hungry, but with dua on his tongue. Ya Rabbi, I'm standing at the door of one of yours who claims to be from your emissary, and I am hungry. He doesn't make dua against him, right? It's very similar to the case of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and the blind man. The next day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds him, they are one of my servants. You gave a vow that you would take care of those who were my servants and that you would be generous. But last night, one of my servants went to bed hungry. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just addressed him about this. That even if you hear a voice, even if it comes late, right, respond to that call. Don't think it's too late. Don't just even strike. Now, of course, this is not, has he committed any sin against the Sharia? Has he committed like a direct wrong? Absolutely not. He hasn't done something that it would be unbefitting of a prophet. No. He is ma'soom. To feed them is sadaqah anyway. This is something extra and beyond. But because it was something that he did on a regular basis, because it was something, an ibadah that he did consistently. And in this case particularly, it's not that he didn't do it, it's that he didn't answer the call to this old man who was clearly a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In addition to many of the people who are standing in the line are not believers. They're only coming for the sake of the food. Give me the food and let me go. But this is the case, the call of a believer. Right? The same in the case of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the case of the blind man. Right? That the man he's talking to is not the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is trying to give him dawah. But there approaches him a man who is blind, who is Muslim, who's seeking the attention of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even though the Prophet turns and gives him some attention, he doesn't give him as full or as much attention as he's given to the dignitary. Because he said, this is where my focus is, right? I'm trying to get him to become Muslim. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving a lesson, right? Teaching Yaqub a lesson. Not long after this, right? It becomes something that's heavy on his heart. And subhanallah, Allahumma salli ala sayyidina habibina mawlana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Yes. After that, not long after that, either the next day or some time passes. Of course, in these narrations, in these riwayah, to be exact about the time is challenging. But it says that not long after that is when his son came to him and reports that he's had the dream, right? The famous dream of Yusuf alayhi salam. I'm not actually going to go into detail about this dream today because I want to save that time for when we speak about Yusuf alayhi salam. Because the life of Yusuf alayhi salam by itself may take us two. It may take us 2 classes. So inshallah, we'll spend more time with them next week and the following week. I'll see inshallah how we arrange it, bi'idhnillah. So when he has this dream, and he reports that he finds the celestial bodies making sujood to him, right? And there are 11 celestial bodies that are making sujood to him. Immediately, Yaqub, he knows the meaning of this dream. This is also one of the signs that of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaching us about the gifts, the specific inspiration, right, that he had given to Yaqub alayhi salam, that Yusuf, even as it's known, we talked about this maybe before, and understanding that many prophets, the current prophet would receive, there is an inheritance that they receive of miracles from the prophet before them. So it is befitting that Yusuf alayhi salam was learned to the interpretation of dreams, because also this is a miracle, this is one of the skills or miracles or gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he also inherited from his father, right? So Yaqub alayhi salam, immediately when his son tells him the dream, he knows what it means. Right? He knows it. He understands it. There's no question about it. Now, there is one narration, and it is important that we have the best opinion always, right? But there's one narration, his wife overheard this conversation. The wife, not the mother of Yusuf, overheard this conversation, right? And in her overhearing the conversation, she is concerned. She's worried that, subhanAllah, this younger child, right, is going to, when she hears the interpretation, she hears what Yaqub alayhi salam says to Yusuf, he's concerned. She's concerned. She just tells her other sons, listen, he's gonna come. Right? Yusuf is going to get all the blessings and the inheritance of your father. You need to do something so that you can become closer to him. You need to do something so that you are the ones who inherit from him. Do you understand? She didn't suggest that they harm him. She just said to her sons, you need to do something. It'd be nice if you could figure out a way to address this. SubhanAllah, the sons took that as, after contemplating and you know, talking with each other and going back and forth. What should we do? Right? What's the way? They said, we know that our father's heart is inclined towards him. You can't control matters of the heart. That's how they felt. Like he loves him. And no matter what we do to try to gain his attention, he just loves. He just has attention for him. So they decided the best way, Shaitan whispered to them, and they decided the best way to do it is just get rid of Yusuf altogether. Like this is the best way to resolve this matter is to remove him out of our father's life. Remove him from our father's eyesight. SubhanAllah. Already, the night after Yusuf alayhi salam has this dream. There is narrations that Yaqub had a dream that 11 hyenas or wolves, there's a differentiation between these two animals, but basically a predatory animal, right, are chasing after his son. So the next day, when he has this, he wakes up with this concern, right? Because remember, Yusuf has the dream that there are 11 that are submitting to him, but his father has a dream that there are 11 predatory animals chasing after him. Which is why the next day when they come to him and say, oh, Dad, Father, we want to take our brother out for a nice outing. We want to go somewhere and show, our brother, our younger brother, a good time. Yaqub alayhi salam is immediately suspicious. He's like, I don't know. If I give him to you, perhaps he might get eaten by a wolf. He's thinking about what he saw the night before. Like, he has this inclination, right? Something about this is something about this fish is not clean. Right, this is the saying we say in the South, I don't know. But subhanAllah, after they continue to cajole him and continuously try to convince him out of the feeling that he doesn't want his sons to feel this level of jealousy, to feel as if he's favoring Yusuf above them, or that he's protecting him more than them, or that he's not concerned about their brotherly relationship, he allows him to go. But he gives him a shirt. He gives him a cloak, a garment to wear. And this garment that he wears is something that was given to Yaqub, that was he inherited it from his grandfather, from Ishaq. It was something that, subhanAllah, when Prophet Ibrahim, remember we talked about his lineage, when Prophet Ibrahim was going to the fire, when he was being sent to the fire, this was something that, subhanAllah, in some narrations say the angels, or some narrations say that it appeared, Allahu alam, that it was a garment that was given to Ibrahim alayhi salam, so that when he went into the fire, it did not harm him. This was something that protected him, subhanAllah. When he was leaving at one point in the growing up of Ismail, when he would go back and forth, because he would only spend a short amount of time inside of Mecca, right? But we know that he spent the majority of his time inside of Palestine, right, in Jerusalem, where he's buried with his wife Sarah. So in one of these travels, in going back and forth to visit his son Ismail, either before or after they built the Kaaba, wa Allahu ta'ala alam, he then gifted the garment, to Ismail. Ismail, on his passing, gave it to Ishaq. Ishaq gave it to his son, who? Yaqub alayhi salam. Like, what are we talking about? Wake up, y'all. Just wanted to see if you're in the same room. Right, so he gave it to Yaqub. Yaqub, before he's willing to send him out, his son Yusuf out with his brothers, what does he do? He says, wear this. Right? He tells him, wear this garment. SubhanAllah. As we know later on, we go through the story of Yusuf. Uh, we skip. We'll wait for next week, inshallah. But the bottom line is that at the end, when Yusuf is discovered in Egypt by his brothers, and they say, like, how can we prove to our father you are alive? He tells him what? Give him this shirt. Right? Immediately when they are coming back, when the brothers are coming back, because when Yusuf goes missing, alayhi salam, Yaqub weeps, right? He wept to the point that he went blind. There was like which is known, subhanallah, subhanallah adim. Allah Azza wa Jal is even showing us a miracle, a scientific miracle, even inside of Yaqub's inability to see. This cloudiness or cataract came over the eye. There is a chemical that is released, subhanallah, in the organ of the body, that when someone like has what is that hormone? Like when sadness is intense and it continues, it actually causes a cloudiness, a covering over the eye. Subhanallah, bihamdihi, subhanallah, al-azim. Interestingly enough, the cure that we use for it today is the same chemical that is produced in the sweat gland. Right? That with the eye drops that they use to cure glaucoma, or basically this covering over the eye, is the same chemical that is used from the sweat gland. So when he gives him the shirt from a distance, right? He says, I smell the scent of Yusuf. Right? From a distance. But it wasn't enough to give him the shirt. What do? They throw it over his face. They throw it over the face of Yaqub alayhi salam. Right? And when he removes it, his blindness, or the let's say the white coating over his eye, is cleared up. Subhanallah. 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 There are 2 or 3 miracles in one in this portion. Number 1, there is, of course, regarding the shirt itself. Just the shirt itself, the garment itself, the cloak itself. 2, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us a science, right? Like a science and a cure for something that is not known at the time. And Allah Azza wa Jal is preserving it for us to unfold it in our lifetime, for when we're having moments of our own weakness of faith, or trying to, is this true or not? Is this relevant or not? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying it's still relevant right now. Right? You need this. Teaching us how to cure our own spiritual as well as physical diseases. But then, subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanallah al-azim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also letting us know about his own power. Right? At the moment that he returns the shirt, what happens immediately? Most people need time. You keep putting these drops in for months or whatever, right? It takes time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it to him immediately. There are multiple lessons inside the life of Yaqub. And inshallah, bi'idhnillah, I want to take this moment that now we have the narration to focus on this. The first thing we have to understand is that recently, I'm seemingly going to deviate for a moment. Okay. Seemingly, just stay with me for a minute. I just came from shooting this mini documentary, inshallah. Inshallah, you guys will get to see it, about my family lineage, like my family history. And so it's super exciting. As a spoiler alert, I had heard all of these stories in my life, particularly about my great-grandfather, and just many different things about him. There was something about him, though, that for me was just not complete. It was like something like in my gut, like calling me. Like I just need to know this. So this past weekend, I got to visit the place where my grandfather came from. That was known. He was from the Gullah Islands. So I got to visit the place where he came from after some research, only to discover, mind you, what's important, that I'm a convert. Only to discover the place he came from was a colony of Muslims in the Gullah Islands. Which for me was like, like, of course. Like, of course. Like, something you feel in your gut, but you're like, I just don't have the proof. Right? Like something you're like, I don't know, something about this here. Something about this in many ways. Even in the fact that subhanallah bihamdi, subhanallah, being even in the discovery of aspects of my last name, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was like giving certain clues to certain things. SubhanAllah. Anyway, I mentioned this because as a child, there are places I would visit where my grandfather lived, like of this particular land, my great grandfather, where he would live. And I would go to these places and like pray in secret and like, you know, cry out to Allah. My mom was like, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? And I was like, just don't. And subhanAllah, what I learned is that there is, on one hand, when we talk about one of the things that Islam came to preserve is lineage and heritage. And that this term, like we look at lineage sometimes so literally that we skip the part that lineage carries a certain heritage. We understand it as it relates to the Anbiya. But ultimately, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us in the examples of the Anbiya is that with each lineage, there is a secret there. There is a skill. There is a key that will open doors for you. There is something specific about where you come from, who you come from. And when you trace it back, you learn like, yeah, my mother was like this, you know, my mother was like this, and my grandmother was like this. Like I come from a long line that all the women on my father's side were all teachers. They were all educators, which there's probably just no coincidence in that. Especially considering many of them I didn't actually grow up with. So it's not like they taught me or I had the example of watching them how to be teachers. That's just one of the secrets that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala literally put in my DNA, right? In my bloodline. So in the case of understanding, there are certain things that we inherit from where we're from. Each land, each language, each people, each has something specific to that place that you, if you're pay attention to it, right, that it becomes something that becomes stronger and known in your life. Hence the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that says, he who knows himself knows his Lord. It doesn't mean that if you discover yourself that you know God. What does this mean? Like, I know me, I know I'm God. No, that's so belittling. What the Prophet ﷺ is trying to say is that the more you know yourself, the more you know your path toward Allah. You know those things that are going to lead you toward it. So there's certain things that we may, even as young people, like we want to shy away from. But there are actually certain things that are meant to lean into because there's some juice there. There's some special sauce in that. Right? There's something special in that. Which is interestingly about, externally, we can say, externally, you say she get it from her mama, right? Like externally, but my beauties or whatever, right? It's like, oh yeah, I got that from my mama. I come from a long line of beautiful women, or whatever. Well, yeah, we never done that, but you get my point. Right? No, some people, anyway. On the, what also is, of course, is so obvious about that which is seen. But do we think that which is seen doesn't have a secret in the matter and that which is unseen? Right? What surely is outward? With zahir wa batin. What is manifest, there's also that which is internal. Right? The seen and the unseen. So we have to be careful not to pay so much attention to that which is seen that we don't take our time to still ourselves and learn and focus and meditate and ponder over that which is unseen about us. Right? And so, subhanAllah, in this case of Yusuf and Yaqub, that he inherits something from his father, this cloak. But what he inherited from him, was a whole nother level in terms of insight and dreams. In addition to what Yusuf would become in terms of his power and his influence, his dawah. Right? Being able to call people, to have that gift, to call people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this is one aspect. The other aspect that we learn from the story of Yaqub is that there is a divine decree that has tests in it that are designed just for you. They are there, and there is no escaping it. There is no power that you will have. There is no influence. There's no amount of money. There's no status in society. Not even your own good deeds, in some cases, will prevent you from certain struggles. Certain things you go through in life, they are by Allah's divine decree, and Allah designed them because of certain internal qualities that you have. Everything I just listed to you are external things. Your power, your wealth, your status in society, your outward gifts, your talents, your skills. These are all external things. Right? Internally, he struggled with his inability. He could be as generous. Externally, he could be so generous with the public. But internally in his home, he could not give equality no matter how hard he tried. Right? No matter how hard. SubhanAllah. And even in the case, because of this, sometimes we are tested by our own love. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us with what we love. Why? For us, as those who aren't anbiya, those who aren't prophets, it becomes a deep matter of sincerity. It becomes a question of, if Allah gives me what I love, then I will worship him. As long as he gives me what I love this and he doesn't take it from me and he's generous with me about it and I get to keep it and I enjoy it, then I'm fine. But you will find, subhan and khaliq, people become atheists, and when you ask them why, they said, this happened to me or that happened to me. And where was God when this happened to me? Right? When this thing happened to me, where was Allah? And they become to the point that they not only become angry with Allah, they will decide now God does not exist. Because had he existed, he wouldn't let this happen to me. Two problems with that. Two major problems with that. Number one, what you're saying is that Allah, I only love you, I only worship you on my terms. As long as you give me what I want, how I want it. And more hurtful, as long as you protect me or do this, then I believe in you. The moment you stop interacting with me, the way I want, then I no longer believe in you. So much to the point, not realizing, then giving people more power than you give Allah. Saying that the actions of the people, right, are blaming Allah for what the actions of people do. Even though we love our free will. We love free will until someone else uses their free will against us. The moment someone uses their free will against us, now I will say there is no God who gives free will. But this world doesn't work like that. We say we love Allah's mercy until He's so merciful that He literally gives you the choice to believe or not believe. He gives you the choice to be Muslim or not Muslim. You could be a peacemaker or you could be a murderer. He doesn't wipe people out. He literally gives them choice to be. That's how vast and wasi'ah, how lenient Allah is. Allah says, if you want me, I will be present. If you didn't want me, I'll let you be. If you choose to be a thief, you choose to be a murderer, you choose to be whatever, and don't stop. He doesn't stop you from being whoever you choose to be, as long as you know you chose it. I didn't do it for you. You chose it. You chose that path. If you go down the path of darkness, you can't blame nobody. You did it. You did it yourself. Right? Now that's fine for us, as long as it's me. What's not fine for me is when someone uses their free will against me. Now I want to blame Allah. Putting Allah's mercy at the level of man. Putting His existence no higher than the good or evil whims of a human being. That if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us, if someone does something to us, that's not the moment to give up on Allah. That's the moment to run to Allah, saying, Ya Rabbi, look what they did. Ya Allah, heal me from what they did. Protect me from them, Ya Al-Muhayman. Guide me. Don't let me fall into the trap. Because ultimately, if we do that, what we're saying is that we're literally handing over our power to those, we're handing over our faith to those who hurt us. We're handing over our iman. We're saying that the people who oppress or who harm or who do evil to us, they literally, right, deserve our faith. That's what happens when you give up on Allah because of the actions of people. Right? As opposed to, Ya Rabbi, I know you're more merciful than these people. That's actually the beauty of you. What they took from me, you can restore. I think about that even this weekend. Even this weekend. Ya Rabbi, what they took from me, a name, a place, a lineage, a heritage, a land, you gave it all back to me. SubhanAllah. And I'm telling you, the erasure in the South is deep. That's a whole nother matter. We'll have a session on that. In the case of Yaqub, and I want you to understand this for our own selves. If you're tested by the actions and the evil or the ignorance or the harm or the jealousy or the envy or the hatred or the anger or the vileness of people, don't empower them further by giving them your faith. But actually do the opposite. Your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is literally life. And don't think you're doing business with Allah. Don't say, if Allah, you give me this, I'll give you faith. You give me this, I'll pray for you. I'll pray, I'll pray to you. Ya Rabbi, you do this for me. You pay for this for me. Now I will fast. Allah, you give me this emotion. You give me this spiritual state. Now I will give sadaqah. What? You're saying to the one who has given you everything, if you give me this thing I want, now I will acknowledge you? The level of entitlement. How deep is the entitlement for the one who's literally given you life? That if he were to say, okay, no problem. Because he doesn't deal with us like that. How merciful is he? He doesn't say, well, you know what? If you stop watching haram, then I'll give you eyesight. And which one of us would want to really do business with Allah? If I do good, then you can let me walk. Ya Latif. When I get a clean heart, then you will let me have love. When I agree, to speak nicely or respectfully or whatever, when I agree to that, then you will stop making me a mute. He didn't make you earn it. He didn't make us earn it. So what makes us think for the one who's literally commanding every millisecond? Allahu al-Basir. Allah is commanding you to see. He's commanding your ability to hear. It's from his command that you can walk. It's from his command that you have good health. It's from his command that you have love in your life. Somebody cares about you. Somebody's praying for you. Somebody's thinking about you. Somebody's sending you money. Somebody grew food for you. This is his constant command. The lunch I ate today, somebody, somewhere, I don't even know where these blessings come from. Somebody grew some kale. Right? Somebody grew some kale and some tomatoes and it had my name on it. So it would arrive to me when I needed it. And he was planning for that. Allah planned for it long before he said, you're going to send it to this place. This person's going to take it. It's going to get in this boat. Right? It's going to get on this boat. It's going to arrive on this truck. It's going to get to Lipton because she's going to be hungry. It's going to need that. Right? SubhanAllah. He's literally planning step by step. It's not happenstance. Every drop of rain that poured on it for it to grow had my name on it. It's part of your risk. So none of us want to bargain with Allah. True, none of us. So stop bargaining with Allah. You don't want to bargain with Allah from his side. So don't bargain with Allah from your side. Just subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah and azim. It's simple. Give Allah his due, give people their due. The creation is the creation. And the creator is the creator, and they are not the same. And those who harm you are not your God. So don't give them your faith. And so in the case of Yaqub, not his status, nor his rank, could stop him from this child. He's going he's tested with his own love. He loves his son so much, it's the test Allah gives him. SubhanAllah. May Allah be gentle with us, Ya Latif. That sometimes, SubhanAllah, I love my dad. I love him. One day, SubhanAllah, I'm not ready for that date. Anytime in my lifetime. As a matter of fact, I told my mom yesterday, actually, Mom, I'm going to die before you. She said, no. She said, I'm sorry. I'm next in line. You can't skip me. Because she said, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to do. I said, yeah, but I never want to experience the loss of my own parent. I never want, but one day I will be tested with that. And for people who lose their faith over matters that are decreed, which one of these people are getting out of this world alive? None of us are getting out of here alive. That's not how this works. That's not how this, he never promises you're going to live forever in this world. You will be tested with the people you love. May Allah save us from children who are rebellious. Ya Rabbi, think about that as you are a daughter or a son, right? As you are a daughter or a son. May Allah save us. Right? May Allah save us from having, alhamdulillah, they live to repent. But Yaqub's son in the beginning, some gangsters. That's mob type stuff. You know what I mean? Like kidnap your child, we're gonna kill him, drop him in the back alley. No, okay, all right, we won't do that. We'll just drop him in a well and leave him for some people to come kidnap him. Yeah, cover the well out. And then come back with an elaborate story. And stick to it. Right? Usually somebody breaks. No, them some hardcore. They hardcore with it. Okay? They kept that up for at least 11 years. What happened? I don't know. You know what I mean? He got eaten by a wolf. SubhanAllah. May Allah save us. May Allah save us. May Allah save us from rebellious children, or may Allah save us from having children who go to prison. Especially, SubhanAllah, Yaqub is tested with a child who goes to prison without right. He's wrongfully in prison. You know how many women? How many fathers are tested with or children are tested with either their parents, right, or their children going to jail, going to prison wrongfully? Sometimes people are tested with what they love. People who were like, I met him and immediately was love at first sight. He blinked, I blinked my eye and he blinked his, Or he's like, yeah. And she walked in the room. As soon as the way her hijab was swinging, I knew she was the one. Right? And then it's like, yay, 10 years of wedded bliss. And then one day you're like, I can't stand the way he chews. Right? Or he lost his job. And now look at what happened. Or may Allah forbid, that life happens. Let's just say that. Life happens. We'll seek refuge in Allah from all of it. May Allah grant you happiness and success all the days of your life. But now that love is tested. Can I hold on? Will we get divorced? The very love you have. SubhanAllah. Even one of the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Right? In the case of Habiba, she loves her husband. Right? She is in love with her husband. SubhanAllah. One day he leaves Islam, becomes an alcoholic. Leaves her, they migrated, they became Muslim together. Right? Isn't that a beautiful story to be they become Muslim together. They used to go to the secret meetings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam together. And then they migrated to Abyssinia together. And then they have this beautiful child, Habiba, together. Right? And it just seems like this is a perfect life, mashallah. And then he dips and apostates, leaves the deen, becomes an alcoholic, leaving her a single mother by herself in Abyssinia. When other people start to migrate back, she can't go because she doesn't have any money. She's tested with her own love. She could have been like, Allah, how are you going to do this to me? How? I became Muslim first. I listened to the Prophet. I migrated for your sake. I did all these things for you, Allah. How could you test me? What, Allah? You don't blame Allah for this man leaving his deen? No. This is his fault. And Allah is a different case. Now I need Allah to help me get through this. SubhanAllah, she had this mentality and she got married to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the case of Yaqub alayhi salam, he didn't allow even the actions. And I want us to see this. His faith is tested by his own family on both sides. The sons who are rebellious and the son who's lost. Sometimes people think like, oh, these parents must have been evil, or these parents must have did something, or whatever, as opposed to no, it's just a test. Families go through things. Siblings fight. Stuff happens in families. Stuff happens. Even if families of prophets can have these kind of problems, you're gonna have something. You're gonna have something. Tasbir, sabran, jamilan, Allahumma musta'an. Be patient with a beautiful patience. Allah will assist you. Allah will intervene. SubhanAllah. Sometimes it comes quick. Sometimes it takes years. In the case of Yaqub, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to return him back, it took years. For more than 11 years, he's crying out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about his son. Some people say, I've been praying. How long have you been praying? 11 days. For 1 week, I've been praying. No. For 1 month, I've been praying. No. He prayed for more than 11 years. Before there's even word that his son is alive. Right? SubhanAllah. If prophets can go through this, expect you will be tested in some way. May Allah be gentle with us, Ya Latif. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us firm in all circumstances. May we never deviate from this faith. I just want to leave you on this point. Allah is not the people. The people are not Allah. And the circumstances are not Allah either. But, well, I didn't give my faith to a person. Don't give your faith to circumstances either. That hold firm. Hold firm to the rope of Allah.
If you would like to listen to more, please donate to www.icnyu.org/donate. For more of our virtual programs, go to www.icnyu.org/classes. If you have any questions, email us at info@icnyu.org.